But first of all, perhaps you can tell me who's this lion here all trussed up like a turkey? Did Christmas come early this year? In front of Tommy lay a young man, bound hand and foot with a gag through his mouth. His clothes were dirty and torn, one shoe was missing, and his greasy black hair hung down over his bruised face. An attempted moustache was just visible above his upper lip. His eyes were full of terror at his predicament. Jack kicked the unfortunate youth before explaining. There's a rival gang hanging around Old Street. Mostly kids, no more than 17. They've been busting up businesses under our protection, trying to grab the patch for their own. Britt caught this one watching the house. His name's Jamie. He won't say anything else. Tommy's smile curled into a sneer. I don't like people taking liberties. He glared down at the captive. Cat got your tongue, has it? Well, let me give you a message to take back to your little gang. Old Street belongs to Tommy Ramsey and nobody, but nobody looks after it. You got that? The youth nodded, tears of terror brimming in his eyes. Tommy kicked the captive in the crotch for good measure. I said you got that? The youth nodded vigorously this time. Tommy looked at Jack. I think he's going to cry. Shall we send him home to his mummy? Guess so. How's he getting there? Tommy smiled. Express delivery. Get that door. Jack opened the car door on his side and held it ajar. Beyond it, the road and gutter were visible as the Bentleys sped across London. Tommy used his feet to shove the youth towards the doorway. The captive was crying out in protest, but his words were muffled by the gag and the noise of traffic. Seems to have found his voice again, Tommy noted. Too late, mate. A final shove from Tommy pushed the bound man out onto the road. Tyres screeched as cars swerved to avoid the body that had suddenly appeared, rolling along the curbside. Jack shut the door as Brick drove on. Little toe rag, Tommy said, bleakly as he lit a cigarette. What's next? Some of the shopkeepers along Old Street have been slow paying their insurance money lately. They say if we can't protect them from outside gangs, why should they pay us? The ringleader seems to be a watchmender who's just set up in the shop opposite St. Luke's Church. So, make an example of him. Get someone to smash the shop up. The others will come round quick enough after that, Tommy said. Jack smiled at his boss. Billy is doing it this morning. He glanced at his watch. He should be there by now. William Billy Valance walked along Old Street towards St. Luke's Church. A thick-set, imposing figure in a brown suit, he had a bland face disguising a menacing temperament. For the past 7 years, Billy had been a lieutenant for Tommy Ramsey. They first met while in military prison for violent behaviour. Once the war was over, Tommy returned to his native East End, keen to get a piece of London's burgeoning black market economy. He prospered amidst the austerity of post-war rationing and offered Billy a job as one of his enforcers. Within a few months, Tommy had grabbed control of all illegal activities around Old Street and Shoreditch. Within a year, he was taking good money out of Spitalfields Market and extending his reach into nearby Finsbury and Bethnal Green. The Ramsey Mob was something to be feared, and Billy had rejoiced in the power and prestige he received by association with it. But the last year had not been so happy for Billy Valance. Jack, the lad, Cooper, had emerged from the ranks to become Tommy's right-hand man. Jack was only just 20 and had not seen service during the war. Billy disliked taking orders from anyone younger than himself, especially an upstart like Jack, with his pretty boy looks and curly blonde hair. Then Tommy was distracted by the murder trial and got sent down for 6 months. But the biggest shock of all came when Tommy left Jack in charge. Billy had hoped to get the top job himself, but Tommy was adamant. Billy was a good enforcer, but he didn't have the nous to lead the firm, Tommy had said. The months had crawled by ever since, and Billy had watched as Jack let things slide. It was just as well Tommy was getting out today. He would sort the mess out once and for all. If he had any sense, he'd sort Jack out at the same time. Billy believed the lad was far too lax with old enemies like Steve McManus, who had begun to encroach into Ramsey territory. Billy stopped outside the church and looked across Old Street to the shops opposite. One stood alone, a rare detached building in the traditional terraced row. The shop facade had recently been repainted, with a new sign over the door. Fixing time. Your watches and clocks mended. Proprietor, Dr. J. Smith. Billy consulted a scrap of paper to check he had the right address. Smashing up the wrong shop would not look good now that Tommy was back on.